Mint Mobile has absolutely exploded in popularity over the past few years, mostly because people are simply tired of paying insanely high cell phone bills. And honestly, I get it. You can get Mint Mobile cell phone service for really cheap. But here's the thing. Now that I've spent a lot of time talking about Visible Wireless on this channel, I kept seeing a pattern come up over and over again. And that is, could Mint Mobile actually be better than Visible Wireless? Because there are lots of increased discussion over Mint Mobile as of lately. And honestly, the answer isn't as straightforward as you might think. Because while Mint Mobile uses the T-Mobile network, Visible uses the Verizon wireless network. And depending on where you live, one of these carriers could absolutely destroy the other. So in this video, I'll be breaking down the coverage, different speeds, network deprioritization, hotspot usage, the pricing, home internet offerings from both carriers, rural performance, the streaming quality, and who should actually be using Mint Mobile in 2026. So first off, why has Mint Mobile actually gotten so big? Honestly, it mostly comes down to just one thing, and that's the price. Mint Mobile has built their entire brand around being budget friendly, and Mint actually uses the T-Mobile network to provide their service. And over the past few years, T-Mobile's network has improved a lot, and I mean by a whole lot. Honestly, pretty much everywhere now, including cities, suburbs, as well as many more rural areas. And especially in areas where T-Mobile service didn't even exist just a few years ago. And here's the thing, many people don't even know that T-Mobile can now offer decent coverage in their area because they've always stuck with either Verizon or AT&T because those were the carriers that were available in their area in the past. Now, T-Mobile still does have weak spots, especially in some more rural areas. But doesn't every carrier have weak spots? My overall message is that the T-Mobile coverage in 2026 is so much better than it used to be. And that right there is a huge difference that Mint Mobile has absolutely exploded in popularity. The thing is, people came to realize, wait a second, I can still pay way less and still get decent quality cell phone service? And that is what changed everything. Now, let's talk about the pricing, because this is where Mint really grabs attention. Mint Mobile's plans are honestly aggressive. You do have to prepay for multiple months all up front. And that is the catch with Mint. So, unlike Visible, where you can pay month to month or by the year if you choose, Mint kind of rewards people who commit longer term. Now, for some people, that's completely fine. But for others, they don't necessarily want to prepay for several months of phone service all at once. So that is something to think about. Now, if your number one goal is to get my cell phone bill as low as humanly possible, well, in that case, then Mint is honestly pretty hard to ignore, especially for lighter users. But there is another side to this. And that's where Visible starts becoming very interesting. And that's the coverage. And honestly, this is where things do differ a lot. Because Mint uses the T-Mobile network. And Visible uses the Verizon wireless network. Now, if you live in a bigger city or more heavily populated area, T-Mobile can actually be really fast. I mean, like really impressive speeds. In some areas, T-Mobile can absolutely outperform Verizon on the network speed, especially the upload speed. And that I've noticed myself as well. When you start getting into more rural areas, smaller towns, traveling down back roads, while camping and more mountain areas, that's where Verizon still seems to have a better advantage overall. But T-Mobile's network has gotten way better in terms of coverage in these areas. And obviously, this all depends on your area, because coverage is always location dependent. But generally speaking, Verizon still tends to be more overall consistent nationwide, especially once you leave the major populated areas. And honestly, that is one of the biggest reasons why Visible Wireless has become so popular. because those are the people who want Verizon's coverage without the Verizon pricing. And that's exactly what Visible gives you. Now, does it automatically mean that Visible is better? No, not necessarily, because T-Mobile has improved so much that in some areas, Mint Mobile could actually outperform Visible, especially in speed-heavy environments. So honestly, this really comes down to where you live, and that is the truth. Now, let's talk about something most people don't understand before switching carriers, and that is deprioritization. This is a huge deal, especially on prepaid carriers. Now, of course, both Mint and Visible can experience deprioritization, meaning if the tower is congested, higher priority customers can get served first. Now, in real world usage, sometimes this barely matters, and other times, you'll definitely notice it, like sporting events, crowded areas, or busy weekend evenings out on the town. That is where congestion can start to show up. Now, one thing I will say is that Visible has improved a lot over time, especially compared to the early days. And depending on which Visible plan you get, you can actually get premium data access. That can be important for some people in certain areas. Now, Mint can still be very fast, especially on strong T-Mobile towers. Mint has also very recently upgraded their unlimited plan to where you may begin to become deprioritized after 50 gigs instead of after 35 gigs. It used to be that once you exceeded 35 gigs of data with Mint Mobile, then you would be throttled to 2G speeds, and that was very heavily enforced. This is no longer the case. Now with Mint, once you approach 50 gigs of data, you are simply deprioritized. Meaning, if their network is extremely busy at the moment, they could give you slightly slower speeds. But once the congestion lets up, you are right back to fast speeds again. And that is an absolute game changer. But for overall consistency in more places, that's where Verizon often still wins, especially in more network overloaded areas. So again, this becomes less about which carrier is universally better and more about which carrier performs better where you actually use your phone. Now, we will touch on a bit about the streaming quality limitations. With Mint Mobile, all their plans are capped at 480p streaming quality, while with Visible Wireless, their Visible Base plan is capped at 480p streaming quality, and the Visible Plus plan is capped at up to 1080p streaming quality. However, with the Visible Plus Pro plan, you can get up to 4K streaming quality, but that needs to be enabled with a toggle within the Visible app. But in real-world use on a smaller phone, will you really notice a difference between 1080p and 4K quality? Honestly, not really. But if you mirror your phone to a big TV, then that is where you can absolutely notice the quality difference. Now, here's another part where things start to get really interesting in 2026, and that is both carriers now offer 5G home internet. And honestly, this is becoming a much bigger deal than people even realize. Visible now has 5G home internet, which honestly surprised a lot of people, especially considering the pricing. And because it runs through Verizon's network, many people are getting really solid performance from it. Now, Mint Mobile also jumped into the home internet using T-Mobile's network. Before Visible, I will say. And this is where Mint Mobile can really shine with their Minternet, because T-Mobile's upload speeds are often better than Verizon in many areas. That's important for content creators, Zoom calls, uploading videos, or performing cloud backups. But again, the coverage in your area ultimately matters most. There are still areas where Verizon is simply more reliable overall, especially more rural areas. Now, let's touch on the hotspot limitations with both Mint Mobile and Visible Wireless, because this could actually be a very big factor in your decision if you rely on hotspot heavily. With Mint, all their plans do include hotspot usage. This is the same with Visible. However, with Mint, the hotspot usage ties directly into your plan's data allotment. So, if you pick one of the tiered plans, your hotspot usage does also go against this. And for the unlimited plan, that doesn't really matter as much. But all the plans include up to 20 gigabytes of hotspot usage if your plan allows. And then that is all you get. Now, with Visible, even on their cheapest unlimited base plan, you get unlimited hotspots. Although this is capped at 5 megabits per second on the Visible base. And on Visible Plus, it is capped at 10 megabits per second. And then with the Visible Plus Pro plan, that is capped at 15 megabits per second. But it is actually unlimited hotspot data. So now, who should actually get Mint Mobile? Honestly, Mint Mobile makes the most sense for people who want the absolute cheapest cell phone bill, who also live in strong T-Mobile coverage areas, those who mostly stay in cities or suburbs, or those who use Wi-Fi a lot and don't necessarily need the absolute best rural consistency. For those use cases, Mint is perfectly fine and can actually save some people serious money. But if you travel heavily, road trip often, or just need more overall, stronger nationwide consistency, then that's where Visible Wireless starts becoming very hard to beat, especially considering the value. And honestly, that is why Visible has done so well recently. People realized, wait, I can get actual Verizon coverage for way less money? That is powerful. So, is Mint Mobile actually better than Visible? Honestly, for some people, yes. For others, no, it's not. If your area has strong T-Mobile coverage, then Mint can honestly be an incredible value for you, especially for the price. But if you prioritize consistency, more rural coverage, and stronger nationwide performance overall, then I still think Visible has a very strong advantage in a lot of those situations, especially for people who are constantly moving around. Now, personally, I think the smartest thing you can do before switching to any carrier is to actually test out the network performance where you actually live. While both carriers allow you to trial out their network, their trial process is extremely limited. So, it might be worth asking people in your area what they use and if they are happy with it. For example, if multiple people say Verizon generally is best, then Visible would be worth trying out. But if multiple people say that T-Mobile generally is best, then Mint would absolutely be worth trying out. But do keep in mind that your experience could actually be completely different than somebody else's. But still, you will get a better idea of what could perform better for you. And honestly, that's the part people sometimes forget. Now, I'm curious, have you yourself tried out Mint Mobile or Visible Wireless? And if so, which one worked out better for you? Let me know down in the comments section. And you just heard me talk about Mint Mobile and touch on Visible Wireless a bit as well. So if you're interested in hearing even more about Visible Wireless and my honest thoughts on them as a cell phone carrier in 2026, I have that video right over there for you to check out. So I'll see you over there.